Moo and good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Pinktron. I am Brent Robinson, and I'm joined today by John Keenan. John, what are you drinking?
I have got another Tepache. This one's a chili lime, mango, mango chili, no lime.
Maybe some
Looks
lime.
good though. There could be some lime,
Sounds delicious in any
unknown
event.
levels of lime. Yeah,
Sorry, and that's a D elk, right? That's a Tepiche
well, I think
light
so. It
elk.
says this. Yeah, I think this stuff is like fermented very,
Yeah,
very light. Like the fruit's fermented and then they throw it in to make the flavor. Yeah.
nice, nice. All right, we also have Sean Fogenberg. Sean, what are you drinking?
Uh, I have some people came by last week and left some vodka seltzers in my fridge, and I went to the fridge to find something to drink and found a High Noon watermelon vodka seltzer. We'll see how it
Awesome.
is.
Canned cocktails have come a long way, I gotta say, since I was a kid. It's not Bartles and James anymore.
Right.
He's thinking,
Not don't
pondering.
love it, don't love it, but it was quick.
It's good
It's a
enough for
lot
a
of
Friday Toronto.
transparent drink, right? Seltzer and vodka, just nothing there.
All right, we also have Steph at Jed. Steph, what are you drinking?
I have a big bottle of Fanta Lemon because I decided to do the long route of Tour de Zwift, an hour and a half up Lorraine, and then had a brilliant idea. Well, that wasn't long enough, so I'll do the short route also with it for an hour. It's two times up the KOM, so now I'm chugging some, getting the calories back.
Okay, yeah, that it is a long week of Tour de Zwift this week. It's the climbing.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
have
Well,
a matcha mint something. I don't know. Somebody left some powdered stuff in the lunchroom, and I'm like, that sounds like I'll try that because I don't know, want something that's a little more hefty than tea, but not coffee. It's very mid as well, Sean. So we're the, the drink selection is a little mid this week on the Pictron.
Speaking of
Um,
things that are
which is no commentary on anyone's route selection, but HWR this week is on the Wandering Flats. One lap, 25-ish kilometers of Makuri and through the Umezi, right? No.
yes.
Yeah, Umezi and Ryokyo parts of Makuri Islands.
yep.
Um, yeah, so I guess interesting thing. So it starts from the fishing village pens or the lower Makuri or lower Umezi pens, and then goes down through the village onsen, and then over past the rice paddies into Nyokyo. Does all the flatter bits of Nyokyo, no rooftop, and then out of Nyokyo. And then the only sort of climby bit is from sort of that exit of Nyokyo up to the castle village, and then you go back to the left and down from the castle village over towards the fishing village and finish at a bit of a virtual banner just around those pens essentially for
Yeah,
25K.
yeah.
It looks like
I think it's about 300 meters, I think, after those pens, if I recall correctly. The on ladder race is on there.
only 146 meters of climbing in the 25 plus
Yeah,
K route. So this is definitely going to be one of the flatter races,
and
but
all.
it does have a separation point within the last 5K of the race. So even if
Yeah,
you've made it with the group until then, you still got to be on top of things there.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a very, very hard section of the race. I mean, I mean, it starts downhill. So, hey, listen, HWR, it's going to start fast because the big hitters always come out of the gate hard, but it's downhill, so it's going to be very, very fast to start. So that when it's faster, the draft is a little more effective. So you should be able to hold in a little longer than your average time maybe out of the gate in an HWR. And then yeah, it's very flat. So, I would definitely, definitely say that this is the full sellout to hold the group till you get to the bottom of the hill. Um,
I wonder for really light riders if that's going to be extra challenging.
Yes.
Yes, if you're a very lightweight, that is going to be tougher for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, and it was really fast. Looking at race one, winning time was 33 minutes 40, so that's 45 plus kph or something like that, at least above 40.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be a very, very fast race. I suspect in the front group there will be several attacks across the flat bits. Um, and then yeah, that last climb starts just around the 19-ish kilometer mark, right around there, up to the castle village. But then it finishes on a long downhill stretch from the top. When you make that left turn to the castle, you're going to get sort of 2-3% downhill to the finish line, basically. So,
Yeah.
that to stay with it, there will be chances to maybe catch people who get dropped and stuff there who are blowing up. And it's a long way. It's like it's almost a full 5 kilometers from that when you start the downhill to the finish line. So,
It
yeah.
looks like our buddy Chris Greenland is
Yeah, I was
back
about to
and
say.
getting maybe back in shape a bit. Finished 27th in a group with Mike Fish.
Oh, good job.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. So, you know, week 2 of the current series last week had really, really good numbers. Bet on there being close to 100 riders in almost every race, I would think. Maybe those 3 and 4 will be a little lighter than that, but I think most of the rest of them were over 80.
I'm only seeing 40 something finishers on Zwift Power,
Oh,
but
really?
that's Zwift
Wow.
Power.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe in
Yeah,
race one. Race one can sometimes be tough because it's still daytime in North
Yeah.
America.
Yep.
yeah, but yeah, I did. Me and Brent did race 7 last week, and I think there were 98 finishers in game, and I think about 60-ish, including the ones that did the Qtons with power. So there is still a significant people's not on with power.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, fun route, flat, fast. Last week was pretty flat and fast too, honestly. So
Okay, so
Yeah,
in
rolling.
game there were 59 finishers.
no,
Yeah,
yeah,
and just if you're listen, I think it's fair to say if you're looking to snipe points, race one is fast, but not usually the fastest. Race two is usually smoking fast. I did. Let me see if I can find it from last time. I know I didn't get all of them in, but I did do an analysis last time of which races were on usually the fastest. Um,
yeah,
That's kind of surprising
okay,
because that's late for Europe, right? Like it's
Yeah.
midnight Europe Central. And yeah,
so okay, up to race 8 of the last series, race one was the fastest by 4 minutes, and then race two and race 7 were basically tied at up to race 8. So race 7 is fast, 8:30 on Sunday morning too. But
we
the
should do an
slowest ones are
analysis.
3 and 4.
We should do an analysis of which of the races get the most typed chat comments. Like, what's the chattiest group? We'd have to build a little bot to scrape the data.
yeah, yeah, and
Because race 2 last week was, yeah, there was lots of poking each other.
They do like to yammer on.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it. Like I'm hanging onto my lungs and they're just typing away.
yeah, and there are definitely slots if you want to go for optimizing your GC points. There are definitely some slots that are less populated, but yeah,
Yep. And that's just based on that. All I did was look at what the fastest, like who won and how
uh,
fast they won in, basically. So
yeah. But it was a lot of fun. I did last week. Did that HWR race. Yeah, helped that we had a big very big field, but it was lots of fun in that race. So yeah, we'll talk about it later, but I'm probably gonna commit to HB trying to fully do HWR the series.
Nice. Well, let's talk about HBR this week. What do we got, Steph?
Yeah, it's Nathan sent us. It's gonna be Innsbruck Ring, pens A to C. It's three laps, and D's and E's will do 2 laps. A's and C's fast times being in the low to mid 40 minutes, and the D's and E's will do fast times probably in the low 30 minutes, but all finishing within 45 minutes for those two lowest categories. Yeah. And yeah, we know it's the big feature is the leg snapper combined with the toe snapper, I think. And I think, as we said, if you're near people, try to push it around that banner to keep your power up to not get dropped, to not ease up, because you can get dropped there over the crest of the leg snapper. And then hold on and see if you have a sprint left in you after a couple of big efforts.
Yeah.
Good. All right. I mean, I think that's all there is to say. Be ready for the leg snapper. If you're new to racing because you're doing herd beginner racing, the leg snapper is about a 500 meter, 8+% hill that is sort of the defining part of each one of those laps. So go as hard as you can to stay with your group there.
I feel like it's
Good.
Yeah,
one
and
of the probably most defining little climbs in Zwift.
yeah,
I can't think of any 500-meter section that can break a race up as much as that does.
Next closest would
yeah,
be the Watopia KOM, I think.
Yeah.
And it's got a kickback, yeah, switchback in it compared to leg snapper, which is just straight up the hill.
Mhm.
yeah. I don't know how the highest bands are now, but yeah, looking at it, it's probably going to be. Some people might do it under a minute, but yeah, it's going to be minute 15 maybe for the fastest people in HBR.
That seems fair, especially since it's going to have to be done 3 times.
3 times. Yeah.
Good fun. All right. I think the only news section we've got is the Stampede ITT is returning in a new form. So um just to recap a little bit, at the end of 2024, Zwift made the decision to sort of depublicize a bunch of event races that maybe had been on the public calendar previously that were not getting as much attendance as they like, to try and build up the density in other races. That meant a lot of Zwift events, including a lot of the normal Stampede times, fell off the public calendar, which has changed the um, sort of visibility and the attendance of those races. So, with a bit of putting our heads together, knowing, and talking to the community that there was still an appetite for some sort of time trial thing, Alan Richardson, pardon me, and I sort of came up with the idea to, instead of maybe focusing on particular races you got to be in, knowing that time trials don't require like the group as much in order to sort of make them an effective racing event, come up with, we're calling the Stampede monthly challenge. So every month we're going to sort of come up with a new route. We'll populate a bunch of club race times, so they're off the public calendar, and everyone will be able to sort of jump into those races. The draft will be off, and You can do any one of those. You can do them as many times as you like, and then try and set your best time. We'll sort of for start, there's gonna be no cats, no breakdown or whatever. We're just gonna put up on the thing who the fastest ones were. We're gonna see who can get the fastest time each month to start. Like I said, as we go along, and depending on the numbers and stuff, we may look at categories or um, age groups or something like that. Change it up each month to keep
What
people
kind of
interested.
numbers are you hoping for?
If we get 30, I think we'll be doing pretty good. If we can get 30 finishers every month, I think and then you could start to like, it means something to be like in the top three in a category if there's 30 people and you're going into four categories or something like that, I
Right.
think, right? If we have three and there's like everybody finishes first in their own category, that's not super exciting.
Yeah. I
But I think we can
think
get to 30 or between 30 and 50. I think if we got 50, I'd be really happy.
I would actually guess that this, if publicized, um, does, I mean, at least for me, I wasn't regularly racing Stampede. I do think that a monthly event, I will try and get out and do at least one attempt of each month.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I think a few things make it easier. Number one, yeah, there's a much longer time span. Like the way Stampede worked before is each week and really only in about a 48-hour window. We had, six events in those 48 hours
Yep.
and you had to get in on those 48 hours. Otherwise you weren't in for that week.
And it was right before ZRL and right after HWR. And so it's like, am
Yeah.
I
It was,
gonna compromise one of those two things to get my Stampede in?
yeah, I actually used to like a 10 to 20 minute time trial on the Monday before ZRL. I used to not hate that, or even like on a Sunday, even better, right? Because it
Yeah.
really, I thought, primed you up a bit, but
Yeah.
um, definitely not everybody felt that way.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was longer, right? A 1 hour time trial on a Monday was definitely too much.
Mhm.
So, so yeah, that's one of it. The other thing is it gives us like, yeah, that in addition to like, we're not gonna have necessarily more times like than six. We're currently got five that we're gonna put out, but they're gonna be way more different windows, right? So like, there's a few times on the weekend. There's a Monday night, a Wednesday night, and the way we're gonna try and set it up is so that if like that it'll be available for Alan and I just if we get a few people saying, "Hey, can you set up something in this time window?" We can quickly just plop another time in, and then if that gets good attendance, like if we do something like that and we get 5 to 10, we'll just add it to the regular list when we set up the list for the next month, and so that'll we'll get a good feel of what is enough to get everybody who wants to do it in. So, yeah. So the first route is going to be one lap of Island Hopper, which is a Urakazi route. It's not perfectly flat because it does have the Mech Island climb and the Shisa climb in it.
Yeah. Pretty close to each other.
Well, yeah, so you do the inside bit of the um the Urakazi bit, and that's when you do the Mech Island one. And then you kind of
Yeah.
go to the outside one, and that's when you're gonna end up doing Shisa. So they're close together, but not right on top of each other. I don't think you go straight between them, do you?
You do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
You
okay,
you're
so
do.
it is that
Yeah,
close.
that's what I
Okay.
said.
My mistake. I was just pulling up the map.
yeah, just
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
within
Okay.
like 3 to 4K, you do both of them.
Okay, so my
Yeah.
mistake. Yeah, you do go straight from the bottom of Mac Island up to Shisa. So
Yeah.
that's definitely the part of the race you're going to want to be going the hardest. The total ends up being 18.1 kilometers. So you're looking at close to half an hour even for Bs, for sure for Cs, I would
Yeah.
think. Um, Ds probably a little over 30 minutes, I would think, with those two climbs in it.
Yeah.
Um,
But
so
I think it's going to be interesting in the day pacing wise. But that's also I think the interesting part about now doing the monthly series. As said, you can do it as many times as you want, so you can, depending on the route, you can experiment with maybe different setups, different pacing strategies to get a faster time if you want. You can raise it every week and try to up your game if you're really into PT. So I think it's indeed the monthly challenge is an interesting thought.
Yep, yep. And post in the comments like we want to still make this social. So listen, there may be that you get into like your event and there's only going to be two or three of you at the start line, as especially if we end up populating a few more events in. But post in the comments what worked, what didn't work, what hurt, where you shed tears. Um, and it'll be fun if we're all talking about it over the month, right? It's a little topic to chat about, think about, whatever. I'll say like, make sure you're taking a TT bike. Draft will be off when we set this up with Zwift. So just if you're listening to this, the routes are not populated yet into um, the club. You'll have to go into the club in the companion app to find the events to start. So, um, if you're listening to this and you are not a member of the Zwift, so be clear, you need to be in the Herd Racing Club, not the Herd Club. The Herd is for the group rides, races for the races. So
Join
be in
them
the Herd
both
Racing
though.
Club. Yeah, join them both for sure. And then, but to find this one, you'll need to go into the Herd Racing Club events, and then you should see Stampede routes populate. So basically, the whole month we're going to have sort of each one of those 5 slots. I won't say all the times, that's boring podcasting, but they'll be there each week. And then, like I said, you might see a few more pop up as we get sort of feedback from the community about where they'd like to fill in some gaps. So,
And we'll, I think, keep an ear here and an eye there on what additional things
Yeah.
we come up with for kind of replacing or reimagining what the herd race calendar looks like going forward.
Yeah, for people for reference, you might notice it, but as a racing club, we decided to basically call all the club events from Mountain Goat, Stampede, Climbers Gambit, and Bullseye. I think one of the public Mountain Goats we kept on because that was doing numbers, but yeah, we're working on other new event ideas. I'm a bit busy. I've taken over last year Climbers Gambit. I'm thinking about doing something similar monthly fortnightly kind of Climbers Gambit hill climb challenge, but still working on the details, rules. Been a bit busy now with my day-to-day job working in finance with year-end close, but definitely some new things in the works. And like I said, expect I look for announcements in the upcoming period. I don't know when the announcement will come, but we will definitely announce stuff when they're ready to be published, announced.
I think you're going to see less long series and more variety
Yeah,
of things
yeah,
happening. A little more
yeah,
casual sort of deal.
yeah,
I think that this is another good thing to plug, is that with fewer herd events, if you want to maintain activity in the herd, I know that there are ladder teams that are always looking for additional riders. So I know that Kelsey Ritter posted something in the herd page just a couple days ago, looking for additional riders for America's times. But if you have any times that you're interested in, if you find that post, you'll end up getting probably connected to the people that you should be connected to for getting into some ladder race riding. And I believe that the transfer window is coming up in the next couple of weeks or a month or so, at which point we go ahead.
should be around end of February, I think, the next one. So in about a month's time. So
But the
and
point being that we can redistribute teams, get people on the teams
Yeah.
that need to, and potentially if there's enough riders for new slots or something that isn't being well covered or by the teams that we have, potentially setting up a new system for how we organize with the riders.
yeah, there's a ladder captain. There's always every transfer window. There's always some people moving about in the EMEA ladder team. So and it's good to see that the America region is getting again some her teams. I think we had the Waffle Riders, I think the Chupacabras. They started out as a low ranked team, but they split it up and made uh, a bit higher ranked team. I think now it was the Racing Chupacabras, and now they have the Flying Chupacabras. So I think, and that team is between the Racing Chupacabras and I think the Waffle Warriors around that period, and then you have the Randers above it. So it's definitely it's gonna be good if America can get that same spread like EMEA. Basically, EMEA teams cover basically the whole 10 metal ranking. So and even if you upgrade or downgrade, you will always then found a team to race with, which you might switch teams. But yeah, seen it before as a captain. We had people coming on from higher ranked teams because they were in a bit of a dip, and I found again a race, a team for their current form that they can be competitive in, and it's so nice to see, and it's yeah, can't plug it enough as a ladder team captain.
Yeah, and maybe this is a little segue away from herd stuff, but are they changing the spread that's allowable on one team in terms of how the colors you can be? There was a post that they're talking about doing that in the randos chat, which would sort of I don't know if that's the idea is that makes it easier to put teams together so there can be more teams to have more races and more movement in the ladder or what, but it sounds like they're making some changes to try and help it along.
So I was,
I might.
this is something that I am interested in because, for example, I'm racing with the Waffle Warriors, which is a 4 to 6 team, but two of our riders have gone up to 3 recently. And when we race against a higher ranked team, those two upgraded riders actually count less, even though we are still the lower ranked team, which I guess I
Yeah.
get because of the spread, but we are already the underdogs. So even if we count, so instead of being a 4 to 6, we were a 3 to 6.
Yeah. Yeah, there's
Like
a
if
rule
we were
that
to beat a 3 to 5 team, it seems like we should still win.
yeah, yeah, it's yeah. I don't think, as far as I know, but I still think there's it's the 3 rank spread you have, and indeed, if you have a rider upgrading or downgrading, which moves a certain riders out of basically out of the team spread, the highest ranked riders indeed will get, if they race with a in your case, if a rank 3 rider rides in the same team with the riders rank 6 rider, that's rank 3 rider will get 50% of the points. Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's
It doesn't actually make a ton of sense in terms of like, who we were racing against, and we should have still been the underdog.
Yeah,
Usually,
yeah,
if we had won on the raw points, we still would have lost.
yeah, yeah,
Is that
yeah.
because
What?
of handicapping, or I'm not following them?
It's just that once you have a rider that is out of your initial spread, they only get half points.
Okay, okay.
But
But
in the
only if
case where you're riding against like a team that's higher rated, like
You're not gonna. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That's not
but
handicapped.
but like I said, only if that's out of your spread rider. If it's if you have in your race team riders that are 4 ranks spread apart, only then the highest ranks get the 50% deduction. If you ride with that 3, but your lowest is, if you ride 3, 4, 5 ranked, then it's fine. Then the rank 3 rider doesn't get a deduction. Then there's a in that race three rank spreads, so it doesn't count.
Well, yeah.
And what usually happens if somebody upgrades out of the and gets out of the team spreads in EMEA, we have basically teams covering the entire spectrum. We usually, because they can freely move teams at that point, basically they get moved up to the higher team because we have that option. And I don't know I think it's still with most teams, the philosophy we try to stick to like a 2 rank spreads to keep it the team spreads reduced, that everybody in the teams feels on basically they feel that they can be somewhat competitive, because if you're like a low ranked, and we are currently a silver to platinum, which is rank 8 to 6, and I dropped recently to just under bronze. But for me, against the higher, like the platinum guys from my teams, there can be quite a big spread in basically in power in watch per kilos. Yeah, but it's still tons of fun. I finished.
It's glad to hear
finished
the Americas are revitalizing a little. I did it early on.
Yeah.
We just didn't have many people to race, so I'm glad they're
Yeah.
getting more teams
Yeah,
put in the ladder and more racing.
Yeah, I think they're now in EMEA, in America, I think 30 to 30-ish, 40, 30 to 40 teams, I think now, around that. So still pretty decent. Yeah, it doesn't compare with like the 150 teams we have in EMEA, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, North Americans think cycling is for babies, so yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, we had a bit on and off. We had some contingent in the squirrels of US and Canada based riders. We had at some point 3 or 4 people from Macassa Ponds racing with the squirrels. So yeah, they could make it. They could make it on their, I don't know, lunch break or whatever time it was, and during that day to make an hour free to race with us squirrels. So yeah.
Seems
All
like
right.
the North Americans are getting into I have had a couple of acquaintances at work who are sports people in general, and they were really interested in this whole gravel bike thing.
Oh,
Which I was like, oh, okay. It's good to hear.
I think the gravel bike thing is sort of taken on like a bit of 80s mountain bike vibe. Like it's kind of like very like you can just go do it and it looks cool and fun and everything else. And it's not so it doesn't cost $10,000 and need 4 parts that you break all the time like a mountain bike does. But
Well, and then you have like Unbound, where people are just like covered in mud and their gears there's the whole messy, like that must be really tough.
Yeah,
for sure.
but yeah, I think it's also to do with that's it's getting also popular here in Europe, but I think in America, in Europe, you have quite, in most countries, at least in the Western is a big cycling culture, and in America, it's maybe.
In America, we have a big car culture, and it's all built around highways. So
and gravel, you don't have to interact with cars that much. So I think that's also the appeal for it in the US. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. It makes a lot more stuff accessible. All right, let's go on to Around the Horn, which is in some ways also related to some Zwift racing ladders, ZRS type stuff, which is there's been a bit of chatter about potentially Zwift is coming up with some more data based or stuff about ZRS, race performance, that kind of thing, and something that will replace Zwift Power to give you more information about racing things, incorporating ZRS. We'll see what comes out of it. Some of the information has come from um, the Discord for Zwift Racing. Um, so I guess our topic is going to be is, if you were looking at a data thing and you're what do you not see right now from Zwift that you would want to get data on? And I can give you an idea, and I'll start it off as I would really like to know um, the thing, and this is all cycling and the one thing I used to get out of Golden Cheetah, but like the power curve is good because it shows you like what your max over any particular time is, but so much sometimes in a cycling race is not like a max over a given period of time, but um like several repeated efforts, right? Like you got to know, like I did like a 5 minute effort at 320 or 350 watts or whatever, and then I had to do it again, 20 minutes later. I had to do it again 20 minutes later, and what those repeated efforts are, that information is really hard to find, right? Like you can see the little timeline graph and you can see a power curve, but it's not like, oh, the reason I got dropped by that guy is the first time we did it at 400 watts, and the next time I can only do 380, and the next time I can only do 360. That's that to me, like if they could find a way to be like, here's your like sort of pushes, like when you hit these pushes to stay in, I would love to be able to see those because that's what I always find that is missing in terms of like, some of that work prime type analysis, right? Like, oh, why did I lose that sprint? Well, I'd already done, three pushes at 95% of my max 3 minute power. So when I hit the sprint, I could only do 75% of my max 15-second power, that type of thing. That would to me help me gauge my efforts as to whether I was a big whiny baby that day or whether I actually got dropped by guys who were just better cyclists than me. So that's my example.
Yeah,
How about you, Sean? I'm
it,
sure you've thought about this a ton.
Yeah, I mean that part that stuff is really hard just because those models are they're just they don't account for everything.
yeah,
So like what condition you're in day to day, like how good your endurance is longer term, all change. Like I can't do a full, even if it's just been riding at tempo for 45 minutes, I wouldn't be able to do a 5 minute, like all out effort at the end of that. Um, but uh, just in terms of what like I wish was available, like just a better history of like what my score has been. Like
yeah,
being able to look at a race, see not just, oh, did my score go up, racing score go up or down, but like by how much, what has that what has that looked like over time? Essentially getting and this is I think what the goal is, but getting something that looks more like uh, ZR.app, the Zwift Racing app, uh, for Zwift Racing Score, so that you actually have a good sense of am I on the upswing, am I on the downswing, like which races actually mattered to my score recently, uh, and having, I mean, even just having some of the like phenotype stuff uh, shown for you know from a sense of the Zwift Racing Score would be great.
yeah. I think so as well because now you have to look into each event, see what your previous score was, and sometimes with Climbers Gambit it gives you a score that doesn't really do anything. It just gives you a score, and
I I do think that, for example, a 30-day or 90-day peak score would be a great way of categorizing people
yeah,
in Zwift Racing Score because it does get rid of some of the sandbagging that, for example, Steve has done.
yeah. But
And right on
yeah,
cue,
yeah,
there's Steve to take some
yeah,
abuse.
I would like to say I've not done sandbagging. I've done maybe sand eating, but I wouldn't
yeah,
recommend sandbagging strategy. But you kind of stolen my one, guys. I just jumped in to say hi and weighing around the horn. I just think, wouldn't it be neat if Swift displayed the data it already has better?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
I mean, this could be as simple as like, it's really annoying that was it 90 days or 30 days? It keeps your PR on a segment.
yeah.
So
And your P,
I don't race most of the segments often enough for my PR to be displayed. So I get there and I'm like, I don't know how fast I should be, and I don't have time to research that. I don't really. I mean, I can. I don't really want to. Like, I just want that to be in game. And actually, then I know Steph does this on intervals. I think you do it, don't you, Steph? Like actually setting up some kind of seasonality. So imagine like a variety of ghosts. You could have the white ghost, which is your PR, and then the green ghost, which was your PR this year or something. And you just have more. You could make it more gameable, I think, in there, and also just display points and think
Yeah.
things in game that people are working out with websites afterwards. Just
yeah,
any of that data before like the really cool like nerdy stuff, like actually just some really cool stuff feels like it's going there.
yeah.
I, I'm
And
about to drink
and
hot chocolate just to get that out of the way as well. Sorry, Steph.
yeah, well, I think it's quite interesting because you have like we mentioned, ZRAP. They had, for the most part, they had like the your evolution over the last 90 days. But Tim Hansen, the guy behind ZRAP, I think I think a Christmas present or something like that, he introduced basically he gave he provided the history for the last 2 years, so for 2024 and 23, your entire history and your evolution for your Velo score movements. He decided to give that as a present, and for that it wasn't there. So it's definitely, if Swift wants to do it, it's definitely in the possibilities, because CRAP is run by mostly Tim Hansen, maybe a couple of people that helping it, but not a big organization like Zwift is. So
What I'd love to know on that is, and I don't think we'll ever find this out, is that kind of peek under the hood of how Zwift works. Now, I think there must be sort of slightly bodged ways that they've put the game together that prevent them from. The problem is doing this in real time, right? So we all know, well, most of us will know who use SwiftRacing.app. Takes a bit of time to update. Like if you get the result,
yeah,
if I get in, have a shower, have my tea, have a drink, and then check, it might be there.
yeah,
Zwift Power's quicker, but you still have the green tick of kind of unverified data. So still there's all that data verification to come through. And we kind of said before, I think Zwift is built on a series of segments, and that's why kind of people disappear halfway between segments and you lose that kind of gap to the person ahead. So I think all of these things are kind of soft or programming issues that they have with the platform that probably stop them from doing a lot of this data comparison in real time. But that kind of brings me back to kind of what they've already got. Surely all of my data could exist on my software, like iPad, PC, Mac, whatever I'm driving Zwift with. And I'm only comparing me with me. So I don't like, yeah, I've got to ping a server and kind of get data about Zwift, but I don't have to find out what Sean's doing, what Brent's doing, what Steph's doing at the same time for comparison. So that feels like an easier win for them.
Yeah, so I mean, this is just like for any driving game, for example, you can bring up ghosts for whoever on any leaderboard. Like what's the all-time fastest on this course and
Hmm.
try and follow that ghost. Like those kinds of things are definitely like included in a lot of these kinds of
That's
things.
a really good example. So I play the F1 games, and I will pull up the guy who's 5 places above me on the leaderboard and try and work out where on the course they're faster than me. You could do exactly the same with Zwift. You go right, pull up 40-year-old blokes who are just over 80 kilos. Who's the person who's slightly faster than me? Like, where are they? Are they going somewhere harder? Are they going faster? Is it just that they're a bit stronger than me? Kind of, because I don't think it's that simple on Swift. It's not like everything's a flat pursuit or it's up a hill, is it? Kind of, we talk far too much about where are we putting different efforts into the game at different times. So yeah. Do any of you use Source? Like, is there anything from that you'd have in game?
I mean, I think that Brent's suggestion of the something like Watt Prime being available so that you know when you're actually in the in the box. Like I'm I'm struggling not just because I'm having a bad day. I'm struggling because my like the amount of additional work I should be able to do right now is actually at zero and like I'm cooked. Uh I think that is something that you can pull up with sauce. Uh and often I don't want that available to me in a race. I I want to look at that afterwards and know that that's why I was dying, but like in the moment, I don't want to look at a thing saying like you have nothing left because it demotivates me from trying harder. It's like
It's sort
I
of
see that number at a negative number and I'm like, well, I'm cooked. I might as well give up now.
Yeah,
it
I've
sort of
never had
brings up
my
how do you
go
I
ahead,
was gonna
John.
say it brings up how you use data, right? There's if you do planning, right? Okay, who am I racing against? Like some you can go on ZR.app and see, right? They'll rank everybody by their velo score, and you'll be like, okay, I should be between these three guys that I know I've raced before. Um, and there's probably more specificity you could get into that, but I don't really know what that would be. And then I think I mostly just look at it after the fact, and I'm still struggling with figuring out like what do I really look at? Like I think in the Omnium, it was useful, oddly enough, to look at the data visualization on Garmin because they were basically showing me where I was at relative to my thresholds, and I'm like, oh yeah, that ITT was I was demotivated and way below threshold. So and that resulted that clearly showed in my placement. So it's like interesting to sort of see it in a very I mean, they just showed like a block of like, above, below, near, it wasn't all that minuscule data that you see on Zwift that I kind of glaze over with.
But it can be interesting. Use have source for it, but use it on and off from time to time. But I've seen it before on, like you said, Sean, maybe the what prime you don't want in a race, but sometimes I've seen it in ladder races, for instance, that you can use that what prime number if you see, oh, that's a rider, the riders of the opposing team are getting in trouble. Maybe one will want to push it now. We have the the energy left, and they are struggling. So we might push them and get them out of the back because, again, ladder racing is a bit more
I think
tactical than.
it also works well for time trials or hill climbs where you're like, okay, I'm about halfway through.
Hmm.
Have I used about half of my gas tank? Like I think that's a good use for it as well to like how is my pacing going?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the kind of using it against other people. Like I think I don't know, I think the sort of subterfuge and hanging on the back elements of the game, like I don't know, that makes it feel like not real boat racing, but I don't know, I enjoy the game.
I actually do feel like having the ability to see where everyone else's gas tank is approximately because I mean no one's FTPs or watt primes are perfectly like
Set up.
they're I know they're all like everybody gets a 20,000 or whatever in sauce. But being able to look at it and say, okay, everybody's like those people are low is the real bike racing equivalent of they're breathing hard next to me. Like
Mm.
But how do you do
they're
the this is the
they're pedaling squares over there. Like
I don't know if you remember the Tour. I mean, probably this has been eradicated from history now officially, hasn't it? But I can't remember which Tour de France win it was. But Armstrong basically fakes
yeah,
big, really bad form day,
I'm bonking.
gets to the final hill, and is like, "Cheerio, guys!"
Yeah.
Just gives. I think it's Ivan Mayer gives him a look,
Yeah,
and then Ulrich, and then just stomps up off the hill.
yeah.
So
I kind of understand what you mean, Steve, because some people are paying for stuff with then using that data
Yeah.
to see other competitors and using that to your advantage for your own tactics can be a bit dingus because it's not widely available to everybody.
I think it's for me. For me, it's like going back to Sean's gaming analogy. I think if there are assists that make the game easier for you to play, um, that sounds cool. But if there's a data assist that makes the game harder for me to play against you, that sounds like that's a bit of a like wordy one that. But yeah, it feels like if you're able to ride better because you can get some more data, that's fair enough. But if you're able to see that I'm not riding well, kind of that feels like a bit kind of anti-competitive to me a bit. But what about some of the kind of, I know I was intrigued in some of the Climbers Gambit, you guys using your Garmin's to do basically laps and like that kind of functionality, actually like a lap button.
Would be amazing.
Even just
Yeah.
display, again, going back to that existing data on Zwift, like just display my segment times for
Yeah.
the segment I've done more than once rather than my PR.
Or even
Um,
just the race time, because I want to race, or I want to ride 5 or 10K after, so that my legs don't cramp up as much as they will otherwise.
They already have these, like, on the grade. As you're writing up the grade, it tells you
Yeah.
for each 10th of the grade, like what was your power, those
Mhm,
kinds of
mhm.
things.
your heart
Being
rate.
able to like have that show up for any segment as you're writing it would be beautiful, because like
Course
that, like
lap.
you can get a sense of like, and if it's automatically shown for each segment, great, that would be great. But yeah, really being able to actually set a lap would be, because what if you want to try a breakaway and you know that you can hold what your threshold is and you can hold threshold, and like how have I been set a lap as you attack, and yeah,
I think Software Swift has something like that, but
it
honestly,
does.
the problem is you have to be near a
Yep.
mouse, and then your Garmin is a bit better. Yeah,
And being able to have that in Zwift where you just reach down, press the L button, or like have it
yeah,
attached to one of the Zwift play buttons.
Yeah, we got a lot of buttons
yeah.
on Zwift Play. Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say, I wonder how much of this development is not limited by like Zwift's ability to process the data or all this stuff, but by the number of platforms and the
Yeah.
flexibility of some of those platforms. Like I play on a PC, I think you play on a PC, Sean, but there's a lot of people who play on Apple TVs, and
Yeah.
And
trying to
on tablet,
manipulate data or push buttons or do any of these things on Apple TV are like they can't even barely change bikes, and we're like M space up enter go escape, and it takes three button pushes on a PC, and so you know I know we're like the onest of 1% of racing geeks and data geeks and everything else, but like I really think that some of this stuff like just doesn't hit the development curve because 25% of Zwifters are only going to be able to use it, and the 75% that are on Apple TVs or phones or whatever are just going to
Mm.
like it's just never going to be something that's functionally useful to them that they don't care about. So
no,
I think that's a problem.
it does surprise me because I think despite their increased interest in racing, they're a workout platform, and it does surprise me that there isn't like that lap
Yeah.
button functionality tied up to Zwift plays to go like, oh, here's a great reason to get Zwift plays. You can do your workout, like, and actually, it surprises me there aren't things which aren't useful for racing, but are there because people do workouts. And that's like you say, Brent, whether that's just a user base
And
issue or
the same idea applies to, you can ideally you would be able to have one of the screens on your Zwift Companion app. So right now it has like a screen that is kind of a data screen, but it's not a real like, you could essentially have a screen that is essentially a head unit, like
It
that
doesn't
has a
tell you
lap
anything
button that
different than what
no,
I
it's
see on the screen.
right.
Like that's what
But it
drives
yeah,
could
me
have,
crazy about it.
you can't
Why
customize
would I
it. You
look at this
can't
thing when
put
I'm looking at that thing? Even the
yeah,
map is like the map is the same map that's on my screen.
you could have that screen be customizable in the same way that a Garmin is,
Yes.
have it like show whatever data you are actually interested in. That would be amazing.
Oh,
Really not difficult to code. Like,
Yeah, and they have the capability of doing like averages for things because for certain workouts or whatever for the grade or whatever it gets displayed your average power for a segment or
yeah.
a period. Why don't if you do longer like workout segments, do it there, or for a climb to have it readily available for other things than specific workouts or specific segments.
Yeah, it doesn't even display. It doesn't even display your average power in a segment, does it?
No, no.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a perfect point, Steve, that, yeah, all the stuff we talk about with racing, but listen, it's way more useful for what actually people use it for, which is workouts.
Yeah, I can understand it for certain workouts because I usually do them in erg mode. But if you don't do in erg mode, if you do, I don't know, like a 3 by 10 minutes or those longer segments, and you don't have erg mode, that's having something shown your average power for that segment can be really useful, because then you know the that section wants me to do at X amount of power. Am I reaching that power? Or you can see it a bit, but it's a visual help, like we do on the Climbers Gambits to see. I want to have this average power for that climb. So yeah,
That is actually
bit
part of
better.
why I do my workouts on Climb Portals a lot of the time. So if I have a workout that I like a threshold workout that I want to do, I'll look at what the Climb Portal availability is, and if there's something like, oh, it'll take me about 17 minutes to do that climb. Great, I can do a 3 by 17 like sweet spot or threshold workout, pick out my target, and like it shows me what my power is along each of those parts of the climb.
Yeah,
And I know whether I'm
great.
actually like hitting my workout target.
Yeah,
Yeah,
one of the guys I used to work with had a fun but brutal over unders workout up the Alp, which
Ooh.
I've done a couple of times, which is just, odd numbers you're under, even numbers you go over. It's a bit mixed up. You're changing gears and stuff. Like it's tough. But then if you're going to do a fast climb up the Alp, you're probably going to try and set a threshold. So it's
Yeah.
probably a good one. It's a good workout to do.
Good. Well, we always like to provide lots of tips to Zwift's developers
They've
and all
yet
the
to
things we
follow up
want.
with us.
If anyone at Zwift HQ wants a little mini focus group, just listen back to the last 200 episodes of the Big Trod. Lots of advice in there.
Mostly about mushroom-based drinks, unfortunately, but
Yeah, you got to put up with some of that. You also got to put up with a little bit of chatter about some random bike racing group, but that's fine too. All right. I think on that note, we will say thank you to Steph Etienne. Thank you to John Keenan. Thank you to Steve Pritchard. Thank you to Sean Fogenberg. Thank you to everyone listening at home. Thank you to everyone doing their herd races this weekend. Let us know how you make out in the Stampede. Have fun racing HWR or HBR. And we will see you all out on the race course. Biking, everybody. Moo and good night.
good night, people.